Hey everybody, I'm Fred and I want to welcome you to the week. Today, I want to revisit the lesson that we experienced on Sunday, and I believe that the Lord moved mightily for those of us in attendance. I know He moved for me, and for a few of you, I've gotten the reports, so bless God for that. But I want to continue that lesson by first saying, when you get serious about it, they'll get serious about it. We're picking up from our lesson, which we read in Genesis chapter 21, verses 1 through 6. I'll read those again. But for those of you who were here, I think you kind of remember, it may still be fresh in your mind. This is the birth of Isaac, the promised child, the promised son. And it reads thusly: And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of that son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare unto him, Isaac. Verse 4, And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. This is our key verse right here. And Sarah said, God had made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. All right, so it's so interesting that we're talking about laughing. I was talking about laughing on Sunday because I was talking about how, I could sense people laughing at me. And the Lord answered me and said, you know what? They'll get serious when you get serious. And so that's where we are today, continuing this lesson this way. But after Sunday's lesson, I couldn't help but think about Abraham. I just couldn't figure out why I was thinking about Abraham so much. I was thinking about him all day Sunday. And then it finally occurred to me is that Abraham was the one who needed Sarah to get serious. We discussed ourselves getting serious, but it is others that need us to get serious about it. And I don't want to overlook that in the presentation of this lesson. We don't often realize it, but what we're called to do and the battle we're facing is pivotal to someone else's success. Yes, that breakthrough is not for you alone. Abraham was the father of faith, but what about the lady who was the mother of faith? You ever asked about that? You ever thought about that? We don't talk about this much because of the patriarchal nature of the times. However, Abraham couldn't just manifest the child on his own. And when Sarah thought that the child of promise would come from just anybody, she sent Hagar to him. Her doubt and belief caused her to violate a woman. And we'll get into that another time at another moment in time, but I don't want you to forget that. I don't want you to overlook what her doubt and unbelief and faithlessness caused to somebody else. God allowed him to conceive with Hagar, but Ishmael wasn't the child of promise. The child of promise was coming through Sarah, and God would not be changing his mind about that. Let me say that again. God would not be changing his mind about the fact that that child of promise would be coming from Sarah. But what if God did change his mind about it? What would that have meant for Sarah? Have you thought about that? That she would have forfeited her place in destiny. She would have forfeited what God had promised her. And many of us unwittingly have forfeited what God has promised us. And this is why I'm telling you, I'm cautioning you to get serious about what God has promised you so that you don't miss out on it. And as this lesson is presenting sequential seriousness, when you get serious about it, others will get serious about it. Or a deeper meaning, when you get serious about it, you will cause what you become serious about to become the blessing that it is destined to be. Ooh, I hope y'all caught that. When you get serious about it, that thing will become the blessing that it is intended to be. That thing you're called to do. Even that thing you don't want to do, it still belongs to you. And sometimes because of fear, we say, Lord, get somebody else to do it. And other times because of rejection and just the way our life has gone, we say, let somebody else do it. I don't like the fight that comes with it. I don't like it. All my life I've had to fight. Some of you have that story. All my life I've had to fight. Every time I set myself to do something, every time I get ready to do what God has called me to do, a fight comes with it, and I'm just sick and tired of fighting. People don't like me. That's a real thing. We don't like to talk about that, but some of us are in places or in situations where people just don't like us. And that's just part of our life. That's just part of our life because of what we bring. Sometimes they're battling their own insecurities. They're battling their own way through what God has given them to do. And so, because we've been treated bad, we've had maybe one bad experience and we don't want another. We say, Lord, let somebody else do it. I don't even care. But God created you with this assignment and purpose in mind, and it's all about that. So I'll tell you again, the only reason you are alive is to accomplish what God has said and what he has given. The word God has spoken over you. I'm going to Isaiah 55 to read this to you because I want to encourage you this because the Lord is serious about what he has said to you. He says in verse 10 of Isaiah 55, let me find it. You know, my Sunday school Bible out here, the pages are not as crisp as as my Bible in the house, are not as used. And so sometimes it's a little hard for me to get to the pages. But I'm in Isaiah 55, 10 and 11. That should give you time to find it. He says this, for as the rain cometh down, it's been raining all day, y'all, in Texas and Fort Worth, and the snow from heaven and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth and making it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whitherto I sent it. And he means that about you and what he has called to do. In this lesson, we discussed just how serious God was about Sarah and about the things that he has called us to do. We saw that in chapter 20. In chapter 20 of Genesis. But today I want to speak to you. Today I want to talk to the person that's still vacillating, to the person that's still on the fence about your yes. You could be the holdup of the breakthrough and deliverance right in front of you. Let me say that you could be the holdup to breakthrough and deliverance right in front of you. I'm thinking about Jonah now. Can you imagine the family members waiting on you? Can you imagine other people waiting on you to get serious about what God has given you to do? Those hellish co-workers, those neighbors, all those demons that will be put under your feet when you become serious. They're subject to your seriousness. And this is different from our yes. You know, we talked about that. Some of us are struggling just to say yes, and I get that too. Some of us have said yes, but we haven't gotten serious. And that's where this lesson meets us today. What does serious mean for you? What does it mean that I'm getting serious about this thing God has called me to? What does it mean that I have to change my diet? Does it mean that I have to change my schedule? Does it mean that I have to change my language so that I'm speaking positively now about myself and to others? Does it mean that it requires a change in the way that I see myself? Does it require new boundaries and a change in the places that I go, literally and figuratively, the places that I allow people to take me? What does this change mean? This is what I'm asking you today. You know what it means, and if you don't, ask the Lord. James 1 and 5. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth liberally, and upbraideth not. Does it impact your finances? Does it cause you to spend or save differently with a different goal in mind, a divine goal in mind? What does this mean for you? Only you know. You and God. Y'all talk about it. Me and God, we talking about it on our end, right? About me. But whatever it means for you, get serious and watch change happen swiftly. Let me say it one more time. Get serious about it and watch change happen swiftly. I'm here to let you know that this seriousness is not only for you, it's for someone else. They'll get serious when you get serious. Hear that. Businesses don't thrive because employees aren't serious about the product or the service or making things happen for customers. Our marriages don't thrive because spouses aren't serious enough about each other. We're not serious enough to listen. We're not serious enough to change. Not serious enough to pay attention in critical moments of conversation. Parents aren't serious enough about their children and allow them to slip through the cracks in school and develop destructive patterns and habits. This series of teaching over the last 4 months has shown us how to be a stirred up soul. It has shown us how to be a sanctified soul. But as I close this chapter, I want us to learn. I want you to get this into your mind, the seriousness with which we must pursue and proceed in the thing that God has called us to, the thing he has created us for. Sarah birthed Isaac. Birthing is akin to creation. Creation or manifestation of a thing. What are you called to create? That's an answer that you and God know. You and God know. What are you called to create? That's the question I'm asking you there. What work are you called to create? What work are you called to manifest? We have creative power within us. Ephesians 3 and 20 tells us that it's the Spirit of the living God in us that gives him, that manifests, that brings forth the power to achieve much more than we could ever ask or think. It's according to the power working in us. In Isaiah 64, the prophet tells the nation, listen, if you would just get serious about God, eye hadn't seen, ear hadn't heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man what God has prepared, what he All you got to do is get serious, and he'll release what he has prepared for you. Can I say that again? He'll release what he has prepared for you once you get serious. Let's talk church. Let's talk church and church membership now. Some of us, you get to the point where you're asking, Lord, why am I here? When you get to that point, that ought to let you know there's something you're not serious about, because God never sends us without purpose. He never sends us without purpose. He never sends us without something to get serious about. You are probably the solution your church or particular auxiliary needs. You are the solution, right? You have the solution. Beyond their need for you to get serious about it, you have what they need, right? And many of our churches are failing because of it. They're failing because the church is full. Well, the church ain't full. It's half full or even a quarter full, because we are not serious about that thing. It makes no sense to me that we have normalized not living our lives, fulfilling the divine call and demand on our lives. There's a divine demand on your life. Let me say it like this. There is a divine demand on your life. That's what I'm talking about getting serious about. There is a divine demand on your life. And this whole series, we're talking about getting serious about it. From January to April, we've been talking about all of this, coming to this conclusion of getting serious about it. Whether you think you qualified for it or not, whether you think you're the right person, whether you think God is talking to the right person or not, whether you want to or not, getting serious about that thing. So let me challenge you this way. Get to work. Get to work. The work precedes the title. Most of us, by the time the title arrives, by the time somebody looks at us and wants to, confirm it, we already been doing the work. And when you get serious about it, the title is really only confirming a thing. We all see it and we're affirming it on you, right? But don't hide behind the title. Whatever the title is, titles have warfare attached to them. I know. I hear you, but they also have dominion attached to them when you're serious about it. So many of us are afraid. We're scared away by the warfare that comes with it. But I want to remind you that there's dominion attached to it when you get serious about it. God can use you, and I need you to know that he's ready to use you whenever you get serious. He's ready now. You say, I've been serious, but that didn't keep me from pain and rejection. I hear you. Jeremiah felt the same thing. He was physically beaten. He was in jail. He was in stocks. He felt like a failure because his prophecies were not causing the people to turn. They were so evil, but there was no way that the prophets saw all of this coming. Remember, the Lord says, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. And Jeremiah in chapter 20 is saying, Lord, you deceived me. You persuaded me. You even, listen, you made this look so good to me that I wanted it. And now that I have it, look at me. Look at what's happening to me. This is his complaint. And I had a friend who preached on Sunday, preached from this same chapter. And she says, Jeremiah never stopped prophesying, but he never stopped complaining either. That's some of us too. And when we get serious about it, then we can get like him. Also, his complaining becomes praise at the end of that pericope. There's a warning. This is a warning that becoming serious invites suffering. But in our surrender with our hands up, there is salvation. Jeremiah closes this pericope reminded that God is mighty to save. He will judge those hearts and reprove men and women for the evil that they've done against him. The serious soul is one who won't be turned back. The serious soul is one who won't be turned back. They're committed to the call. They're committed to the call. And in our short lesson today, I simply want to inform us that our seriousness is to the benefit of a greater work. Our seriousness is to the benefit of a greater work. So who is the beneficiary of your seriousness? Who is the beneficiary of your seriousness? While there are people you ain't seen yet, people you haven't met, people you have no clue that they even exist. There are people in your orbit waiting on you to get serious. I thought about it and I realized, y'all, that the reason some of us have yet to move is because we're comparing where we are to where others are. We say, I'm not saved enough. I'm not experienced enough. I'm not mature enough. Jeremiah said, I'm not old enough. I'm not financially secure enough yet. I don't know enough of the word yet. We got a whole list of excuses. Lord, why me? That's the other thing. You know, not only in calamity and tragedy, but when the Lord says, I've chosen you, and you say, Lord, why me? You could have chose anybody else. Please choose somebody else. Leave me alone. But even as Jeremiah said, I think it's in chapter 20. I forget which verse. I think it's either 7 or it's 9. He said, listen, I stopped trying to prophesy, but it became like fire shut up in my bones. It became like fire shut up in my bones, and I couldn't contain it. I couldn't let this thing go, even when I wanted to stop, even when I wanted to quit. But just where you are, start where you are, and God can use you from there. Quit complaining about where you are and comparing where you are to somebody else. Even comparing yourself. Listen, they don't have trouble. Why I got to be the one in trouble? But get serious about what God is doing. And like Jeremiah, you'll even discover or remember God's saving power. I can't compare my journey with somebody else that's been in this thing for decades, 40, 50 years. I'm not like them. But guess what happens? On the way to them getting where they are, they got all that they needed, right? Everywhere Abraham went, he prospered. We talked about his stops in Egypt and in Gerar. And in every place, he was blessed. He was prospered. He waged the war and won that war. He took the spoils of that. I don't even know how he carried all the stuff he had. It makes no sense to me when I think about it. This whole caravan of stuff where Abraham prospered. He was not settled yet. But as a pilgrim, he had all of this. And sometimes, you know, we get to the point where we say, well, I ain't made it yet. God hadn't, you know, God's still working on me. Yes, he is. But even in that, he has a way of prospering you, even as his word prospers, as his word leads you. Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. And so God is speaking. He's still speaking. He spoke once. He's still speaking. Keep listening. If Abraham was not tuned to God's voice, he would have killed Isaac up on the mountain instead of listening to him when the angel said, stay your hand. Right? So I'm still listening. I'm still listening. And as I'm still listening, like the Apostle Paul says, I'm still pressing. He says, no matter where I am. In one chapter, he says, or in a few verses before, he say, listen, everything I've done in my past, all of those accomplishments on that side, as a Hebrew of Hebrews, as a Jew of Jew, as all of that, I sat at the feet of Gamaliel, I counted as dung. And then he comes back in verse 13 and says, 13 and 14 says, I press toward the mark of the prize of the high calling, which is in Christ Jesus. So even on the way, I may not have it all. I may not start with it all, but I'm going to start. I'm telling you to get serious, and I'm telling you to start. Some of you just need to start. Get serious enough to start. All the work you've done, all the stuff you're pressing, all the hell you're pressing through is just to get you to the start line. But you got to start. If you ever become who God has destined you to be, you got to start. You have to start. God will supply what you need. He'll supply what you need, and even the things you think you lack on your way to your place of promise. But you'll never get there if you never move. You'll never get there if you never move. And I close this lesson this way. Don't keep the Lord and the world waiting. We got work to do. It's time to get serious. Don't keep the Lord and the world waiting. We've got work to do. It's time to get serious. All right. This has been your midweek manna moment. I want to thank y'all so much for watching and listening and tuning your ear to what the Lord has given me to say and share with you. You can meet me here again this coming Sunday at 8:30 for Sunday school as we complete this portion of the series. I believe the Lord has already given me what I need to share. I don't want you to miss it. And as you have watched already, I want you to take this lesson, take this video and share it with someone else. Share it with everybody. As a matter of fact, share this and share this past Sunday's lesson. All right. Do that. I love you. And I thank you so much for being a supporter. If you want to give, you can give. I think I have that ready. Nope. It's not ready. If you want to give, you can do that. You can inbox me or ask how to give. If you want to be a blessing, I don't charge for this. I give this freely. Listen, this is me getting serious about what the Lord has given me to do. So as I'm doing this, I want to encourage you to do the same. All right. I want to thank y'all so much for watching. Listen, I'll meet y'all back here for Sunday school Sunday at 8:30 a.m. right here.